Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Carolin Klein, Programs Officer for STAR, and welcome to another STARburst interview. STARburst is about highlighting the clinical contributions and research of our members, helping us to get to know one another, and staying up to date on clinical practice and new research that's come out. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Lyne Piché. Dr. Piché is a registered psychologist and EMDR certified therapist in British Columbia, Canada. She and I got to know each other many, many years ago when I was a student, and she was working in federal corrections here in Canada as a forensic psychologist. But she is also a clinical psychologist working in the areas of sex and relationship therapy. Most recently, she has really pursued an interest in the intersection of ADHD and sex and relationships. She has been a full member of STAR since 2019, and she presented some of her work on the impact of ADHD on sex and relationships at the 2024 annual conference in Toronto, Canada. We're very excited that she will also be giving an oral presentation at the upcoming annual meeting for STAR in May here in Vancouver, which we hope you're going to attend. Dr. Piché, I am so thrilled to be showcasing some of your work today. Welcome to this STARburst interview.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. It's always great to be among colleagues and
Lovely.
saying hi to everybody. So, hi.
Thank you. Dr. Piché, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested on the impact of ADHD on sex and relationships?
Well, I've been a clinical psychologist now for 26 years, which I continue to be absolutely surprised by. And within the course of that time, there is often, you work with clients and you get to a certain place in your therapy. And with a subgroup of clients, especially ones that were presenting with a lot of impulsivity and poor choices, there was this, thing where you'd get to about 80% and people would go, okay, like I'm managing this well enough. But as a clinician, kind of feeling like you weren't quite getting to the root cause. You weren't quite kind of figuring the whole puzzle out. And I definitely like, puzzles, and I like really understanding what people are coming in with so that I can help them and give them the best interventions to deal with whatever it is they're struggling with. And so going into COVID with, kind of some of this clinical piece, one of the things that we started seeing in COVID was so many of our clients going online and talking about their mental health experiences and gathering in communities. And I was very attuned to what I was hearing online with people going, these mental health professionals are missing this and missing that. And here's symptoms that are coming up for me. And when you start looking at this explosion in neurodivergence, which is, high functioning autism and ADHD is generally what we're talking about when we talk about neurodivergent clients, and the amount of information kind of coming through online, I really started looking at, well, how is some of this impacting sexuality? And just assumed actually that it was something that we were talking about, or there were experts out there looking at how these two worlds collide, and noticing that, there's Dr. Tuckman wrote a book on ADHD and sex, and there's a few researchers that are publishing academic studies about it. But from a clinical perspective, there really wasn't anything bringing these two worlds together, helping clients understand how their ADHD is impacting their sexuality, and then more importantly, what to do about it. And I realized as a clinician, there was a lot of things that I had missed. And I started teaching about this because I think that we really could do a much better job at understanding adult ADHD, understanding adult high functioning autism, and recognizing it when it's showing up in our clinical practice.
It is so important, for me as a clinical psychologist. I was trained with no knowledge because I was working always with adults about ADHD, neurodiversity, et cetera. And of course, now it is showing up in clinical practice every single day. So
Yes.
it's so important what you are doing. I wonder if you can
Yeah.
give us a few little golden nuggets. What is either a myth about sexuality in people who are neurodiverse, or something we should be aware of, or something that you have changed in your practice with this population as you've gained more knowledge?
Oh my, I feel like there are so many things. And I want to just speak to what you're initially saying, which is we weren't trained to look at adult neurodivergence. If you weren't offering child services, it's not something that was part of our wheelhouse. So, it's really okay to be like, hey, I didn't know this was a thing. When it came to adults, female adults or cisgendered female adults, we didn't even think ADHD applied. So, this really has been a shift that has been coming from social media, which I think is a wonderful use of the tool. I know not everybody would agree with that, but we certainly learn a lot about humans and what our clients need when we can kind of skulk around and see what they're saying in informal settings. So coming back to your question, there are so many ways in which ADHD, and I'm going to be very specific to ADHD, and sex can connect. And really, in a lot of ways, it's like ADHD in that it's going to vary in these extremes. You're going to have people that are hypersexual, and we have this moderate correlation between ADHD and hypersexuality. We also have this link between ADHD and affairs. So, right there, right, if you think about the bulk of your clients coming in for relationship counseling and sexual therapy, many of them are going to be hitting those buckets, right? We're here because there was an affair. We're here because I'm having too much sex. I'm thinking too much about it. And so thinking about ADHD in those cases would be really important. The other thing to consider is the other extreme, which is no interest in sex, low sexual desire, because a lot of the features of ADHD can be I'm interested in other things. I'm hyper focused on my to do list. I can't transition into sex, so getting there is hard. I'm distracted during sex. So there's a lot of the symptoms of ADHD that really can get in the way with the arousal pattern. And so when you're seeing either one of those extremes, and I'm hoping that you can see how this represents a lot of our clients, you want to be thinking about neurodivergence. And then we add sexual pain has a correlation with ADHD. And so if you have a client coming in for sexual pain, you want to be thinking about that and ruling it out. And then we add sensory issues, which happen a lot with people who have ADHD and people who have autism. And so for me, in my own practice, when I started looking at the problems of clients coming in and I started mapping that on top of the neurodivergent profile, I saw so many interrelationships that screening for ADHD and screening for autism from the get-go, in my initial sessions is a really important thing that I've done. And I've also really gotten to know neurodivergent couples counseling and I'm going to call it neurodivergent sexual therapy, where we're not ever asking clients to try harder because that doesn't work with these clients, right? Just, log and just do your homework and just try harder and just try to manage the impulse. That typically is not going to get us where we want to go. And clients end up, as I was saying earlier, kind of at this 80% mark where they can do it for a little bit, but ultimately um, fail or don't, or put so much energy into maintaining by just trying harder rather than working with the neurodivergence.
Dr. Piche, part of STAR's mandate is always to bridge clinical practice and research. And I'm curious, where are the gaps in the research? If you could kind of dream up one research study that you wish someone would take on that would better inform our clinical practice, what might that be?
Well, there are so many things, but we're getting a really good handle on the fact that there is this relationship between ADHD and sex. And I think at this point, we're like, yeah, we've got enough data saying this exists. I think we need research about like what to do about it and what neurodivergent counseling looks like, more specifically. I also personally have a real interest because I keep getting asked the question. We need things specific to ADHD and dating. So if we're looking at kind of those initial steps, we don't have a lot of research, if any, specific to that kind of part of the sexual dance. And I've sometimes wondered about some of the norms. So we use norms around sexuality that are very specific to neurotypical people. For example, how often your sexual frequency is, or how many sexual partners you have. And because a lot of the research about ADHD and sexuality is saying, you know what people are doing is different, how often they're doing it is different, with who they're doing it is different. And do we need to start looking at just a different way of looking at this when we're talking about neurodivergent clients versus neurotypical clients? And what would that look like? How could we adjust for these two client populations and start maybe separating things out? So there's just so much work to be done. And if anybody out there is interested in getting to know this or working with this, or you have a mad interest in ADHD and dating, for goodness sakes, please reach out. I think there's a lot of great things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like it. Thank you. So, what are some resources for those of us who do want to learn more? What are some great resources you would recommend or that you've maybe even been involved in developing?
So, a few of the things that I've developed, in part because of this piece of, okay, we need some practical tools, is I have the ADHD and Sex Workbook, and I've written it both for clinicians and for the general public. It is quite dense, but it's got a lot, it's workbook style. So, it has a lot of information specific to most of the things that I've talked about today. You can go through it as a clinician and kind of see what applies and how this would help your practice. You can also encourage clients to use it. And because many of the ADHD clients are like, whoa, Lynn, that's like a lot of that's a lot of writing, and those are a lot of questions. I do have an online ADHD and sex course that I've designed for the general public. It's 7 weeks and specific for people who don't really want to do the work and would prefer that interactive teaching format. And the other thing that I've designed is some clinical master classes. So, ADHD and sex for clinical psychologists and also for forensic psychologists. So, looking at how this thing plays out on, for myself in both of the fields that I tend to have my feet in, so that we can spend a day, it's like a 6 hour course, and we can learn more from each other about how this comes up. And I think the more that we talk about it and the more that we start considering it and learning from each other, the better we'll be. So those are some of the resources that I've put out there. I suspect in the next few years, there's going to be kind of more additions to the group and the people that are doing the work. The last resource I'd like to mention is Melissa Orlov has a course that's called ADHD Marriage. And that's the name of her website is adhdmarriage.com. It's excellent. I think if you're providing couples counseling, you need to have taken her course. It's that good. And it will also help you get to know that neurodivergence. So, Melissa is a great sport. I have ADHDsex.com is my website. Her website is ADHDmarriage.com, and I thank her all the time for being okay with me piggybacking on some of that because it's just easy for people to find and easy for us to start getting the word out.
Nice, incredible. We
Yeah.
will link to all of those resources and put those at the end of this video interview. Dr. Piché, it's been such a pleasure. We love to end every Starburst video with just a little bit of fun, a 1 minute lightning round where I'm going to fire questions at you just for the fun of it. If you are ready, let's see how much we can learn about you in 1 minute. Are you all
Okay,
set? Here
go.
we go. The timer, and here we go. All right. When you were first starting out, who was one idol for you in our field?
Oh, Dr. Peggy Klein-Platz. Absolutely. So I took Dr. Peggy's class when I was third year undergrad, and I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living. I was in psychology for no other real reason. And I took her class and changed my life. And here we are. Yeah.
Amazing. And Dr. Kleinplatz, a very highly valued STAR member. What is one of the things you hate in your clinical day, whether it's report writing or booking,
Oh.
a pet peeve in your work?
Oh, the emails, the emails, the emails, the emails. They don't seem to ever stop.
Do you have a random, possibly useless sex fact you could share?
Oh my goodness, it has to be useless. Okay, here's my favorite quote is if you want to get to know people who are neurodivergent in your community and you're like not sure where to go to your local kink party, right? Friday night, Saturday night. That's where you're going to find everybody. And that's where you're going to kind of be able to interact and maybe learn more about ADHD and sex or neurodivergent sex. There's my random fact.
Awesome. And I'm going to throw one more in, even if the timer's gone.
Yeah.
Is there a television show that you would love to have a cameo on?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have to say Oprah, although it's not really a television show. But if Oprah wants to meet me, I'm up for meeting her.
We will make sure she knows. Dr. Lyne Piché, everyone. Dr. Piché, thank you so much for being willing to speak with us today and share some of your clinical wisdom and the really important work you've been involved in. I really do think that you're exactly right. So many of us need to do this because it is showing up in our work and we just weren't trained in this area. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you are interested in having your work showcased on Starburst, please reach out to me, Dr. Carolin Klein. You can reach me at info@starnet.org and just put Starburst in the subject line. Same thing if you have someone else that you think would be amazing who's a STAR member and we may not know very well, and yet they've got really important work, whether that's research or clinical wisdom, please nominate them to be a part of this. To all the rest of you, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to doing this again in 1 month's time. Hope you are all doing well. Take care.